waited an eternity for this. It's over, Prime.
All right. Well, I guess, are you ready, or did you want to? Okay. Well, welcome to Toy Collector. It's nice to finally meet you face to face. This is for anybody who doesn't know. This is John Hanson from the TKO Next Generation channel, I guess, on YouTube.
Yeah, well, we're now changing it due to some differences. So now we're the F-Team podcast.
That's why the Facebook group. Okay.
Yeah, a friend of ours. We're just going to call him Dexter. He was very he was using me as a scapegoat on a lot of things because my views are different than his are. So my buddy Chris and I, we decided just to say, you know what, we're going to move on. We're going to rename the podcast. We're going to same formula of how when you were a guest. It's just we're doing a different take on everything, renaming it, kind of doing a rebrand, and it's because a lot of differences between Dexter and I got a little out of whack, and he used me as a scapegoat, and we lost all respect for him, to be honest.
Oh wow! Okay.
So it's a long story, and honestly, I know a lot of us are excited for the change, especially for the name, but still have the same formula. But we'll remember that next time something like that happens, I really hope we see eye to eye the next time, and we hopefully figure stuff out.
Well, that's good. It's best just to move on like you did, I guess.
Yeah.
Be positive. All right. I guess the first thing I wanted to ask before we even got into it was, how long have you been doing stop motion? Like, you've been playing around with it for a while, or are you fairly new to it?
I've been playing around with it since middle school, honestly. That was back in probably 2009, maybe 2008 time frame, give or take. A lot of the first stop motions I saw were by Mike Nightslash. He did a lot of Transformers stop motion and stuff like that. Then he still does stop motion stuff, and he even tells his entire different story to the Transformers origins and stuff like that. And it was a very, very cool taking of how he told that story, and also how he did his own Transformer stop motion. That's what really got into it, was a lot of Mike Nightslash's work. And then just I've been kind of having a dry spell stop motion wise right now, but I mean, I need to get back into it. I mean, it's a good hobby to get, a very fun hobby to do.
Yeah, it is great. Yeah, I guess I should have realized. I've seen some of the uploads in your channel were quite old, eh? The stop motion, I guess you have been doing it for a while. What I wanted to get into first, I guess, was, because I haven't really done it yet with stop motion, was syncing your work kind of to something that's already established, like taking an episode of Transformers there or a battle scene and then syncing that up. I guess my question is, was it difficult to get it perfectly in time, or I guess the question.
I mean, in Generation 1, there was always those animation issues and stuff like that. So trying to, especially when I was shooting the final battle between Megatron and Optimus, a lot had to go into syncing those bits together, even though there's probably some missed footage, missed scenes, like, in the movie, you see when Hot Rod is like, I gotta go help Prime. In the far background, you see Optimus Megatron duking it out and stuff like that. So I just had, I don't know how I was going to do that, so I'm just going to have Hot Rod just kind of run in front of something that looks like Autobot City, that orange piece of cardboard I used. And then even doing the I don't have a third-party cut figure or not even a cut figure in my collection at all. So for a stand-in, I just used Hound because that was the easiest, closest to a green style figure. I mean, I felt like that one was a very challenging project because it was literally the final fight between Optimus and Megatron in the Generation One continuity, and trying to make sure that is as close and as perfect as possible. Just kind of just like there's gonna be that little nitpick that everyone's gonna have, but to me, I'm like, I did a good job, including when I was doing the Galvatron versus Hot Rod Rodimus Prime. Doing all that, I had to change it up a little bit. I had to make sure following along with the audio and stuff.
The ending was great too. On that, yeah. I appreciate the G1, like all the masterpiece figures were great to watch through that thing too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, I've seen some other people's interpretation for a lot of those scenes, and I'm watching. I'm like, Chug, it does its job, but it feels like if you had that extra bit of quality over quantity, then you could actually make sure it is as close to G1 even more, because Fans Toy Sovereign is probably the definitive example of Galvatron. And I don't know what the definitive Hot Rod Rodimus is. That's why I have the was it MP28, I think, of that Hot Rod, and of course the Masterpiece Rodimus, which was released years ago. Same goes with Megatron and Optimus Prime. Of course, I have MP36, and then for the Optimus stand-in I was using is the third-party Transformers element, which to me is the definitive Optimus Prime. The only thing I feel like is missing is an ab crunch for that extra posability in action.
Yeah. Do you find those ones easy to work with? As for stop motion, like the mechanics?
I do. I do. It feels like to me when it comes to doing the MP style, feels like you can work with it more, but there's always going to be those faults. There's always going to be that fall. There's going to be that misstep in transformation when you're doing a stop motion for transformation, because I think doing the Rodimus versus Galvatron fight, you see Rodimus transform or Hot Rod transform maybe 3-4 times, and Galvatron just transformed once. And so making sure I try to sync those transformations, and even I had to cut out certain transformations just to kind of be like, yeah, they transformed off screen, stuff like that, just to kind of make it a little easier and try to make sure the audio fits in that time frame of the time span of the stop motion.
That background just kind of brought me to another world. I really liked that. What inspired that? That was just cardboard basically, but how you decorated it up, eh?
Yeah, just watching, just looking at the sequences in Generation 1 when I was shooting the Megatron Optimus scene and the Rodimus versus Galvatron scene, trying to sync that, it's pretty much in Unicron, it's a gray tint, like a gray metallic tint, okay, gray, black Sharpie, add a little detail to some of the gray, and then for Autobot City, that's pretty much just orange, because in Generation 1 you got Autobots was their primary background color, and Teletran 1 was pretty much orange. Decepticon color was pretty much purple. So it's like trying to have that Generation 1 feel is to have that kind of like that bright standout color when I was working with the orange. And the gray, working with the gray was a much more darker and duller tone, like it was, because it was a dark, duller tone when Galvatron and Rodimus fought.
Yeah, sometimes appreciate a real background as opposed to the green screen sometimes, because I don't know, then you get the shadow and the reflections, and it all looks a little more realistic. But, all right, I don't know. I was gonna just see if there's any other stop motions on your channel you wanted to talk about. I had one about John Wick there. It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was that's another project that's been kind of on hold right now. I've just been busy with a lot of things and whatnot. I would like to get back in that project, and then I need to And then I have a couple other ideas that this is what I'm trying to do. Is one is the Transformer Sideswipe Transformer story, which I had a scene that was knotted where he was being Generation 2 Sideswipe's being interrogated by Prowl, and it's kind of like a the idea of that's like a revenge story type deal, because in the comics, Shockwave experimented on Sunstreaker in some of the early IDW stuff. So I'm trying to integrate some of that storyline, but kind of making it different my own way, and having Sideswipe go for revenge on Shockwave for killing his brother. And that's, air quotes. Killing means that he's not really dead. I'm not trying to give too much away for that one. A couple other ones I do have in mind is, I don't know if you've seen it, my crossover with Transformers and Avengers. I have 2 sequels planned for that.
Yeah, I've kind of glanced through a lot of your stuff, but yeah, I have to check it out again for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean that was like one of the most fun projects I've ever done, and trying to work with a script and try to write my own script is actually, it's not like when I did the first one I kind of just went at it, like I didn't have a script. I felt like I did how they did the first Iron Man movie. They barely had a script when they did that, and with Crisis on 616 with Transformers and my first Transformers and Avengers crossover, having that go without a script and stuff, I felt like there's not enough emotion in some scenes, not enough of a lot of grasp and awe. But to me, for doing a project that long and merging every single part I put together into this one feature film, I mean, that was one of the biggest ideas I ever had, and I can't believe that I actually went about it.
All right. One other thing I wanted to ask too was, because you've been doing it for quite some time, is there any like tips or tricks you wanted to pass along to beginners? Like, I'm sure, like I always find or learn from my mistakes. There's always something you can evolve on.
I guess a couple of the things: make sure you use good lighting. Sometimes, even if some of those lightings have problems, but I need to work on my lighting better. Don't try to have your hand in a frame, because I think that kind of ruins a lot of stop motion. Because some of these beginners with stop motions and stuff like that, they just kind of, you can see a hand in frame or something like that. I mean, Mike Nightslash. There was a couple when he was working in some of his earlier projects back then. He actually had his hand wearing a black glove to simulate that something's flying, for example. And I think a lot of it has to do with editing tools. I mean, because I've been playing with like when I shot the Megatron versus Optimus scene, when Optimus punches him, I used the MP36 stand, and then I had Megatron fly back for a couple frames having the stand. But what I did, I took a picture of a blank frame that there was nothing in it until I put Optimus Megatron in it. And then what I did, using a crop cut tool on the stop motion program I use on my phone, I was able to cut out that entire stand. So doing stuff like that.
Yeah, the stands are interesting. I've played around with a few different things myself, but haven't had too much luck. The only one that really worked for me actually was I just tried something recently. I don't know how I come about this, but I had this big G.I. Joe book, and I put the camera stand on it. On the same book, I'd have the vehicle. So then that way, if I move the stand and the vehicle together, they would be in sync. So then only the background's moving. So then I started playing around with it. I had this other block. It was pretty stationary. I put it on the same book, stuck a chopstick into it, and the chopstick held a G.I. Joe figure perfectly in the back. So you could have the G.I. Joe figure and the camera stand in the same book in sync, but this way I could have him kind of dangling there, so I could have his arms swing. So it kind of gave me a chance to have him walk as the whole background was kind of moving. But it was kind of weird how I stumbled upon it. So I ended up doing it for a couple shots afterwards.
Right.
But I always have problems with the lighting. I catch stuff like afterwards where I'm blocking the light, and when I'm shooting in only 9 frames per second, sometimes it's tough to take those shots out because there's not much left, so I have to leave them.
Yeah, and and I think a lot of it when doing stop motion is trying to get that right bit of movement, especially when it's like when you're working on like trying to mimic, you're trying to mimic art, which is, let's say, Generation 1, a lot of G1 scenes. You're mimicking that art into a more of a realistic setting, meaning that you're using actual three-dimensional objects instead of two-dimensional. And it just shows that these figures and whatnot have so much depth. Like, for example, you take let's say you take a G.I. Joe scene, for example. Let's say you had a favorite scene in G.I. Joe from the movie or the show, and you want to make sure that that scene and background and setting is just as close to the show as possible. And there goes into your set design. There goes into making sure you have the equipment and your figures. Just make sure everything's all lined up to as close as possible. That's what I try to do with a lot of G1 scenes I recreated and stuff, including the which the most popular one I've done is the Optimus versus Megatron scene has been the most popular on my channel. So trying to sync everything up is always a challenge. And then you have that slight background somewhere sticking in the scene from the real world, and you're trying to make sure that it's in the stop motion world and making everything look more fluid and not have like a couple bricks behind your background sticking out.
That video did quite well. I remember when I first watched it, it had only been out for a couple hours, I think, and there'd already been like a few hundred views. I thought like it really went up fast.
Oh yeah, it did. It's like 1.9 right now. Hopefully it gets 2 eventually, but I don't know when that will happen. And then trying to get more subscribers is always a challenge. And then you got life and stuff in the way, and you're like, well, I can't just drop everything in my personal life to do stop motion, even though I would love to do more of it.
Yeah, understandable. It is something we do just for fun, so we do it when we can. Yeah. All right. Is your channel going to change names too? Your YouTube channel?
Nah, it's going to stay the same as Fanboy Studios. I mean, it's just going to be like just mainly the podcast is just going to be the big change. And then after that, if any more changes will come about it. I mean, I'm the kind of the editor and the uploader of the show, so I'm kind of like the backbone that holds together the whole podcast. Because I mean, without me recording it and using all the editing tools and stuff like that, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure Chris or Dan, the other two hosts can probably figure it out and whatnot. But I'm the one who knows the workaround in the channel and be able to manipulate everything and have the uploading process power, which takes forever when it comes to uploading a podcast.
One spending the time, I guess, doing all the work. Well, not all the work, but it is time consuming. So
It is
definitely deserve. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was gonna, if it's all right with you, in this video, I was gonna put a link to that Transformers video we were discussing, in the description, and then I was gonna put a link to your channel at the end of this video, so that check you guys out. But yeah, I'm gonna have to cut her short. That's just because my podcast, I don't know, I'm hoping to keep mine all around maybe a half an hour or something like that, maybe a little longer. So
yeah,
see how it goes. Anyway, this is only my second one, so
yeah. Your first one was with Chris.
Yeah. Well, I seem to mostly be into the G.I. Joe stuff, so it's nice to have people that are into Transformers a little more than me, and discuss other areas of the toy community.
Yeah, I mean, this one thing I really enjoy is just Transformers in general. I mean, some of the stuff I've seen and heard. I mean, I know there's been some dark moments in Transformers continuity and fandom and stuff like that, but I kind of like to go back to when I was younger, of when my Transformers were Transformers, and not this entire crap that's continuously going on and appearing in the fandom. I mean, there's a lot of toxicity of people not liking the Netflix series, which I thought I enjoyed it. I liked it, but I don't know why some people didn't enjoy it. But
Yeah, everybody seems to divide on everything nowadays, so
yeah.
you do. Yeah, okay. Well, yes, it's definitely nice talking to you, and hopefully, yeah, we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. I appreciate it. You have a good one, and take care of yourself. All right.
Yeah, you too.